Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Taking a look at one of the more intriguing matchups, week 2, as the Oregon Ducks head on the road and play a Texas Tech team that it is very hard to win in Lubbock. And I get Texas Tech, a very tough loss week 1 on the road to Wyoming. I watched that game live. I rewatched it Sunday morning. And I'm not a huge fan of making these arguments of this Texas Tech team is way better than Wyoming. You watch that game. Like, Texas Tech wins that game 8-9 times out of 10. The ball bounced a few different ways that Texas Tech didn't want it to. This is still a very good Texas Tech team that plays extremely good at home, and they get an opportunity to knock off what I think is a top 10 team in the country and kind of get that bitter taste out of their mouth. Now, I like both these teams. If you've been listening to me all summer, I like Texas Tech a lot. I'm a huge fan of what Oregon did, especially in the transfer portal. Excited to get into a few of the key matchups that I'll be taking a look at. I'll give you guys my pick at the end of it. Now, before we do again, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's been a blast taking a look at these teams and kind of dissecting these matchups. The support from you guys truly does mean a lot. Over 8,000 subscribers. The support you guys have shown really does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, I learned the best part about doing this, talking ball with you guys, learning from you guys in the comment section. Would love to hear your takes on this game in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this matchup. And I want to start with the most intriguing matchup, I think, is you look at where Oregon struggled on defense last year. They struggled with teams that spread them out, wanted to throw the football. Oregon did not have the pass rush they wanted to, probably did not have the players playing in the back end that they wanted to. They're going to get a chance. I mean, you didn't really have a chance to do it against Portland State. You're going to get a very good chance to do that against the Texas Tech team that on the offensive side of the ball, I thought looked really good, especially in that first half against Wyoming. Tyler Shuck looked in command of the offense. They have this Texas Tech team loaded from a wide receiver standpoint, a ton of different weapons that can hurt you in all sorts of different ways. Drain Bradley, I think, is one of the better receivers in the country. What I'm looking for is what changes has Oregon made this offseason to kind of address the struggles that they've had with teams that wanted to pass the football on them? Because Texas Tech is going to want to do that. And if you're an Oregon fan, you're going to get a good feel on if this Oregon team has made some of those changes. Now, I think they made a couple big things. One, from a personnel standpoint, a lot of different changes, new faces in the secondary, new faces up front rushing the passer. When I went back and watched that Oregon-Portland State game, just kind of watched quickly through it, they got some dudes up front. I think Brandon Doris looked absolutely awesome. Thought Jordan Birch looked really good. Then in the back end, really sticky, had good ball skills. Now, Portland State is a hell of a lot different than what Zach Kitley and Texas Tech is going to give you guys on the offensive side of the ball. And my main attention to that is, can Oregon get after the passer? Can they stay sticky in the back end? If there was a weakness on that Texas Tech team on the offensive side of the ball, it was certainly not the wide receivers. It certainly wasn't Tyler Shuck playing quarterback. I thought it really was the pass protection. The offensive line didn't really assert their dominance in the run game like I thought they would. And I didn't think they pass protected like they probably should have against a Wyoming team. And what I'm nervous about for Texas Tech is, do they have the guys to hold up against Oregon, who I think is a much more talented team in terms of rushing the passer than what you saw against Wyoming? Now, I want to flip the side in the Texas Tech defense that forced a lot of turnovers, that I think is a really underrated unit, and how they match up against this Oregon Ducks team. And I think the biggest thing that, after watching both games back, keeping the quarterback in the pocket. I think that when Andrew Peasley, the Wyoming quarterback, had to stay in the pocket and push the ball down the field, he wasn't that great. I thought the Texas Tech pass rush was really good. I'm really excited to see Steve Litton against Josh Conley and Johnny Cornelius, two really good tackles I have from Oregon. I thought the biggest problem for Texas Tech is, when you're rushing the passer as effectively as Texas Tech can, you have to maintain that gap integrity, the rush lane integrity, or else you're going to get beat. And you look at Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is extremely athletic. Not only can you piece you apart a little bit better than Andrew Peasley could at Wyoming, but I think he's a guy that is just as athletic. And if Texas Tech does not maintain that gap integrity, maintain that rush lane integrity, I think Oregon and Bo Nix is going to be able to move the football. Then you look on the outside. This is an Oregon team that I think has done a phenomenal job. And you take a look at some of the matchups. I'm a massive fan of Texas Tech in the secondary. I love what their cornerbacks. I love their safeties. They're going up against what I think is one of the more underrated wide receiver units in the whole entire country. I mean, you saw Troy Franklin and Gary Bryant go for over 100 yards against Portland State. Troy Franklin, I don't promise anything, but I think that come March, April of 2024, you're talking about Troy Franklin being a first round pick in the NFL draft. I think Gary Bryant's really good. I thought Tez Johnson had some good moments. They have some really good wide receivers that I'm really excited to see that battle. And then you look at the run game, check my notes. Oregon ran for over 10 yards a carry against Portland State. And that's, I mean, I get it's Portland State. You won't see them average 10 yards per carry against Texas Tech, but you even look back last year, like this is an Oregon team that as much hype as Bo Nix gets, as Troy Franklin gets, this run game with guys like Bucky Irvin, Jordan James is absolutely elite. I think you're looking at one of the more complete, balanced offenses that Oregon has going up against the Texas Tech defense that I think is pretty solid, that just had a few plays that they left on the field against Wyoming. Don't get it twisted. Like, I know Texas Tech just lost to Wyoming. Oregon looked awesome against Portland State. There's a reason this line is sitting at only 6.5 points. This Oregon Ducks team is solid, very, very good. But this is a very good Texas Tech team, and you play in Lubbock. It is a hard place to win. Let's get into the pick. I got Oregon minus 6.5. I think that you saw Oregon. I think they're just a little bit more complete. And again, I like this Texas Tech team. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech at some point in this season is back in a top 25 rank, because I do think they're a solid team on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're really, really solid, really good on offense. That being said, you take a look at Oregon. I think they have the better personnel. I think Joey McGuire is still working on getting that roster where it needs to be to compete with top 10 teams like Oregon. And I think Oregon is just a little bit more complete. Like you saw Texas Tech struggle on the offensive line. They struggled to run the football. Thought they had some struggles on defense. Oregon, I mean, I think that they're a very good offensive line, a very good quarterback, elite wide receivers, a really good run game. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they got a lot better in the offseason. Now, if Texas Tech wins this game, I think it is because you see Oregon not really adjust to how to stop this passing attack. They've struggled with offenses like this last year. That being said, I think Dan Lanning going into year two, if you've listened to me all offseason, I think the jump from year one to year two for defensive-minded head coaches is very, very obvious. I think Oregon's able to do that, fix some of those things. I think Oregon puts up a lot of points. I think Texas Tech probably puts up a decent amount of points too, but I have Oregon winning by 2 scores. This is going to be a great game. 7:30. I cannot wait. I mean, you talk about Alabama and Texas squaring off. I got the 2 monitors. The other game is going to be Texas Tech, Oregon, because you're going to find out a lot about this Oregon team and a lot about this Texas Tech team too. Extremely excited, but give me Oregon minus 6.5. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.